Roll call, please.
Bruce Miller,
Here.
Kirk Martin,
Here.
John Clark, Chris Colbert,
Here.
William Gilbert,
Here.
Patricia Griffin, Karen Kahn.
Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any public comment slips?
No speakers.
All right. Well, this is the opportunity for any member of the public to address the Airport Commission on non-agenda items. 15 minutes. Seeing no comment, we will move on to notices that the regular meeting of the Airport Commission to be held on Wednesday, April 17th, 2013 at 7 p.m. was canceled due to a lack of agenda items, and that on Thursday, May 9th, 2013 at 5:30 p.m. the Airport Commission Secretary duly posted this agenda on the bulletin board at Airport Administration. The minutes. I have a recommendation to waive the reading and approve the minutes.
I recommend we waive the reading
Do we have a
in a
recommendation?
form of a motion.
Do we have a recommendation to approve the minutes?
Seconded.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. The consent calendar, do we have any changes?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. The consent calendar comprised of lease agreements, and the March property management report. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor of accepting the consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye.
Objection? Consent calendar is passed. Liaison reports. We have no City of Santa Barbara liaison, but I believe we do have our City of Goleta, the Honorable Michael T. Bennett. Any comments for us?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, as always. And the only thing I'd like to report is I know I read on one of the blogs that Target wasn't coming to town. Well, Target is coming to town. They did appear most recently in their second application, and this will be at the location of the south east corner of Los Caneros Way and Hollister Avenue. And their second application has a number of major modifications, not the least of which they reduced the square footage just a bit, about 4,800 square feet, and made some other significant changes, and I think it fits better than what they originally had proposed. So we're looking forward to the process as they go forward, and I would expect that more information will be forthcoming as they move along. And as you may know, the City of Santa Barbara owns Hollister Avenue and the right-of-way 10 feet in, I believe, from the curb base to the north side. So there will be not a lot of interaction probably going on because the intersection at Los Caneros Way and Hollister isn't proposed to change other than it's going to get smaller on the north side, on the city side, and go from the existing 4 lanes to 2 lanes. So other than that, that would be the most significant change in the roadway system. So anyway, we'll keep you posted, and as things move along, I'll come forward and let you know what's happening there.
Is there a general timeline expected?
I would suspect, nothing's easy. Although interestingly, we've had a tremendous amount of support in our community to move forward with this project. But I would suspect that it's going to take probably at least 18 months before the approval process is finished. And that's assuming there's not anything that we learned that we don't already know about. And assuming that's the case, everything's nice and smooth, I would say 18 months. So maybe 2 years from this spring, we could expect construction to begin. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we had a question. Commissioner Gilbert, did you have a question?
No, I was just wondering about a toll road,
Oh, toll road. I see.
but I wouldn't want to do that to myself. That's the problem.
Another revenue source, huh?
All right.
I have a question concerning another major use in that area that does have indirectly an impact to us, and that's the Deckers construction. Have you heard do you have any update on the Decker relocation project, which is
Decker's actually has been the project as far as construction goes. They've had a number of glitches, little problems that have popped up in the construction process. So they're a bit behind schedule. And I talked to one of the principals last night, as a matter of fact, and he was unable to give me a specific timing as to completion. But they are running behind schedule. And it's just one of those things in construction. It's I'm not saying it's unavoidable, because you did a great job on your terminal where you came in under budget and got it done, I think, sooner than you anticipated. But in the case of the Deckers project, it's running a bit behind schedule. So I know that they rent current space on the airport, so you'll probably know before we will is when they're expecting to be leaving that space.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I can't give you any better update than that.
That's perfect.
Actually, I had a question on another construction project.
Certainly.
Since so many of our airport patrons go by it every day. Your creek project along Ward Memorial.
San
Status.
Jose Creek
Right.
project, actually, they began the second phase of construction this week. May not look like they're doing a lot, but they are mobilizing to begin the construction again, and the expectation is it'll be finished in October. You may have read in the paper where the state wants back their $18 million, and we're willing to give them the creek, but they didn't see the humor in that. So we met with the Department of Finance without success. They've told us they want their $18 million after meeting with them. And so we're in the process of taking the next step, which will most likely be going to court. And as you may know, there are now 101 lawsuits against the state of California, spending your tax money, both the state in defending themselves and the local communities in defending themselves, to try to make changes in the manner in which the state is taking money from us. And I don't think there's anything more important than this particular public project. They say it doesn't meet the criteria, which is quite interesting. But you'd have to be an auditor to understand that. Has nothing to do with common sense. And this project, when we're finished, Old Town will, as you may all know, the far eastern end of Old Town is required to have flood insurance. And that will all be removed through the FEMA maps once we're finished. It'll go from a 25-year capacity to a 100-year capacity for San Jose Creek. So it's a huge, huge project, and tremendously beneficial. So it's not like we went out and bought or set something up for a big box store or bought a golf course like some things occurred elsewhere. There's a great track record in this county on redevelopment being very, very successful. But that's, part of the negatives that occurred with redevelopment projects. But that's certainly not the case in our case at all. We've applied the monies into the appropriate locations and for the appropriate purposes in which redevelopment was established. So we're very upset about it, but there's not much we can do but go forward and take the opportunity to take the state on, because that's the only opportunity they've given us.
All right. Well, thank
And
you.
it will be finished, as I say, that we're told emphatically it will be done by the end of October. But keep in mind, there's one other component that's going to then start, and that's the replacement of the Hollister Avenue Bridge that's in front of the old Sizzler. And that's going to reduce Hollister Avenue to 2 lanes. And that's going to be about a 2-year project. So needless to say, that's going to have a tremendous impact on our community. Certainly to some degree maybe here at the airport, although you've got 217 to come in, and certainly Fairview Avenue. But it's going to have an effect on the community, and certainly then there's 2 other things that are going to occur at the same time, and that is 2 roundabouts are going to be created on either side of 217 on Hollister Avenue as well. So there's some major construction yet to come.
All right. Well, thanks for all that information.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Administrative reports. The financial report for the third quarter ending March 31st.
And Ms. Johns will be giving that report.
Well, I'm pleased to say that our revenues at the third quarter are just a little over $11 million. Commercial industrial property revenue continues to maintain itself with modest increases, so we're about 2% ahead. Non-commercial aviation is general aviation, so that's the FBOs and everything inside the air operations area. It's up 8.7%. Most of that, I think, is due to the GA landing fees. Fuel sales are increasing for jet fuel, And we also did new agreements, as you'll recall, with the FBOs. So we are moving up there. The airline terminal concessions, however, are down. It's a negative 3.8%, and that's because parking is still lagging. We just, remember, the short-term lot came online right before Christmas, I believe, so we don't have a full year of that yet. But it is coming back. Rental car revenues, you'll recall that we do have an annual minimum annual guarantee with the rental car companies, or 10% of gross. And the method in which they pay on a monthly basis, whichever's the highest, then at the end of the year they do a reconciliation. And because of that, this past year, Hertz had overpaid, and primarily it was Hertz. It could have been the others as well, and we had to refund $75,000. So that's why there's a dip in the rental car revenues. What am I doing?
You're using a mic that works now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have to start over, do I? That's okay. Thank you. Where was I? Okay. So the other concessions in the terminal, the gift shop and the restaurant, are doing better than expected. I think the last quarter on our performance measures, the restaurant was getting $3.80 per in-plane passenger. And that's good. Their target is $4, and if they can do that, and I think they will, I think that's really helpful. The gift shop, I think, is $2.89, I think, almost $3. So they're doing extremely well as too. Commercial aviation, landing fees, building rental, and boarding bridge revenue, that's exceeding our target. So that's good. Interest income, however, for the department, as you know, the city has a very strict investment policy, and right now they're getting less than 1% return on their investments. So consequently, we too are not going to meet budget on the interest earnings. TSA reimbursement, that's for, as you know, the patrol responding to the checkpoint 16 hours a day, and we do have an agreement with TSA. It is a reduced amount from last year. It went from $163,000 to $116,000, and we have filed all of the reimbursements since October. So we're awaiting the funding to come back in. So we've got that underway again. So our total revenues for the department right now are 2.3% above budget. This chart gives you an illustration of how we compare to last year, and we really are exceeding in each category. Aviation, the airlines are really going up, and that's what we want to happen, so that they kind of pay their fair share of the cost. And speaking of cost, the expenditures are under budget. We have expended $8.7 million, almost $8.8 million year to date through the end of March. So we're about 11% below. Salaries and benefits continue. We fully fund them, but we rarely ever use all the money that's put aside for salaries and benefits. So right now we're 2% below budget. We still have vacancies in patrol, and we had some in maintenance, but those have been filled, I believe. Furlough savings, patrol still has furlough coming out at $10,000 a year, or so far. Supplies and services are under budget only because through the third quarter we had not entered into some of the maintenance contracts that are needed for both our security system and the other systems within the terminal. Those will be done and have been done between now and June 1st. Utilities are close, but on water we're really under on utilization on water, which is good. ARF, aircraft rescue and firefighting, there's no variance this time. Special projects in your report only reflect 7 months, not a full 9 months. This chart compares this to last year, so we're very, very close to the same dollar amount last year. I think we're about $50,000 higher this year than last year overall. So great news, revenues are on target, expenditures below budget, and we do not need any adjustments to our operating fund. That concludes my report. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer. No?
Kristen? Okay. Thank you for that report. And item 13, the Airline Terminal Welcome to Santa Barbara Goleta Program.
All right. There's no PowerPoint for this one.
Oh, damn it. Big welcome banner.
Yeah, that was a title. We're still trying to figure out what exactly to call the program. In 2009, the airport started our ambassador program at the terminal to help passengers ease through the construction and changes that were going on between the old and the new terminal. And after opening the new terminal, the ambassadors continued their job, and they do a wonderful job in terms of directing passengers to where the restrooms are, where bag claim is, what to do if they have a delayed bag or lost bag, and the myriad of questions you can imagine that passengers have and the public when they're in the terminal. Currently, we have 11 ambassadors serving us, and shortly we'll be starting another recruitment to try and get some more ambassadors on board. For many, many years, I've and staff have wanted to have a kind of a visitors booth at the terminal to give out information about what's going on locally, how to get from here to there, sort of like the visitor center does on Cabrillo Boulevard. So we have been recently in discussions with the Santa Barbara Chamber, the Goleta Chamber, and the Conference and Visitors Bureau, and are in the process of ordering the desk and furniture to be located in the bag claim area, and the chambers and the visitor center will provide staffing for the booth from 8:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon, and then again from 4 in the afternoon to 7 p.m. in the evening. And we hope that we will be able to start by July 1st.
It's our goal.
And the fee that the chambers have proposed to cover the cost of personnel that they will need to provide is about $13,000, which we couldn't do it for that amount of money. So they and their staff and their volunteers are very knowledgeable about what's going on in the whole county for visitors, and so we think this will be a great amenity to add. Our ambassador program, we met with our ambassadors today, and they were pretty much unanimous that we should keep our ambassador program separate because they really do answer different questions and provide a different service. They're on their feet, they're moving through the terminal with passengers, whereas the visitor center will be, those volunteers and staff will be more stationary. So I think it'll be a great program to augment our ambassadors, and so I'll update you once we get it underway and you can see how it works in action. But did you have anything you wanted to add? Or
Just that would bring the agreement between
right.
the chamber and the airport.
Right. Once we get the agreement drafted, we'll bring that to Airport Commission for approval. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy.
I do. How do you recruit for your ambassadors, and how does that program work?
Do you want to?
Rebecca.
We recruit in a lot of different ways through, I think, retirement homes. Do you want to come on up, Rebecca, and tell how? Rebecca is actually.
Forgive me, I didn't mean to come out of left field, but I think it's important for the public to be aware, and this would be a good forum to help that recruiting.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Excellent
that's
idea.
great.
Yeah. Thank you.
She's our expert.
Yeah, we've actually used a number of different media. We've advertised in the Independent. We're unfortunately not eligible for the news press section on volunteering. We've gone to RSVP, we hit the rec center, the Louise Lowry Davis Center, the Goleta Community Center. We've done it at Marvia, at Samarkand, at a number of the retirement homes that have active seniors. And it's been very interesting, actually. We've also talked to newcomers because it's like you get one person from each place. There's never been one really fabulous source for recruiting people. And but we are looking for new people that like to help out. We have shifts that run approximately, I'd say, 2 to 2.5 hours, and we try to schedule those around the peak times when we have the most traffic and the most need. And our folks at the terminal have really loved this program because every question that our ambassadors can take is one less detraction from their particular job. And we go through an orientation process. We don't just drop them over there and say, answer questions. They actually have a full-on orientation plus a tour. And the ones that we've had, for the most part, the majority of our ambassadors have been with us since the beginning of the program. So in that respect, if you find the right people, they really love it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we'll find some more people that love it equally as well.
So if someone was viewing this
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to be an ambassador, what would that mean out of their life on an average month?
That they would probably spend about 2 hours a week is about what we ask for in the way of a commitment.
Okay.
And we do schedule them in on a particular day at a particular time, so it's something regular. We're not inflexible when it comes to things like traveling or holidays. You know, these are volunteers. They give of their time freely. They do have a little perk. We do give them a parking pass for the long-term parking lot number 2 that they can use for personal travel as well, which they all have enjoyed. But other than that, there really aren't any, you know, they're not paid staff, and they're very loyal, and they all show up and take it very seriously. And if they have some issue coming up, they just call us and let us know that they can't be there for one particular shift.
And this is all pre-TSA areas?
Actually, no. Some of our ambassadors have gone through the badging process so that they can go upstairs as well. So if they're on a particular shift where they have a number of flights coming in for a certain period of time, and then they have a dead time prior to the time that the next group of flights arrives, quite often they will go upstairs and just see if anybody up there has any questions or, you know, comments, or needs somebody to assist them with their child who's fussy, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. They get wheelchairs for people who need them. Usually those are requested through the airlines, but sometimes the airline doesn't know their passenger has arrived, so they'll go into the terminal and ask for their personnel to come out with a wheelchair. You know, their functions are kind of almost endless. They can advise you on what's good to eat in the restaurant, you know, where to get your rental car, where to find brochures about what's going on in town. But their focus really is on giving information out about your travel
Right.
and the terminal.
And do they need to purchase a uniform, or?
We provide a uniform. So there's nothing, we do have a dress code, but we provide both a blazer and a t-shirt.
So you give them all the tools, all they have to do is show up.
That's correct.
Okay.
And they know how to use the courtesy phone if they have a question that they can't handle, and somebody over here at the office will be happy to help them.
I can't think of a better program for our transit passengers. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to point out that I have several friends that are part of that program, and they find it so self-rewarding, it's enjoyable for them, as well as answering. And I'm very glad we're going to get a visitor's booth, because that is one of the biggest questions that come in, people who want to know where to go, what to do, and the ambassadors try to answer it, and they do, but it's nice to have a booth. But it's so self-rewarding, according to several people.
They do a wonderful job.
I can't think of a better thing to have a booth to go to have people tell you where to go.
So the visitor center booth, that's going to be in baggage claim to the right of the.
It will be,
end, is that
as you go in the door of baggage claim, to your right.
Okay, with the two
Little
booths
niche
that are kind
where
of
the
niche.
piano is right now.
Okay, great.
And we'll find another home for the piano in the terminal, because that's also well-loved.
And used.
And used, yes.
Great acoustics. Okay, item 14, the proposed fiscal year 2014 airline rates and charges.
Yes,
That
indeed.
PowerPoint, please.
Once again. As you recall, the airlines operate on a permit, which is negotiated annually, and that permit includes the economic terms of that include the space rental rate, landing fees, boarding bridge fees, and then it also addresses other operational issues within the terminal. Air service changes here in Santa Barbara continue. I think the biggest impacts that we had from the recession have hopefully passed us by, and we're back on the comeback trail. The airlines I read recently for 2012, I think they were profitable. At least 10 of the largest airports or airlines were profitable. And that's primarily due to the fact that they charge the baggage. That's where they're getting their money. Anyway, so back to us. We have a projected increase in the number of seats available, 2 to 3%, primarily because we're having Portland service return in June, and at this time it's going to extend through September, so that's good. We're really working, hoping to get it continued through October, month by month. We do have, as you know, the last 10 months we've seen a positive increase in passenger traffic, and our load factor, the number of seats filled, averages between 83 and 90%. Some flights are just booked, really overbooked. We have lost carriers since 2008, but we've really been firm with the 5 carriers that we have and the destinations that we maintain. Calculating the rates for the fees and rates and charges for the airlines, we changed our methodology when we moved into the new terminal. So this will be our second full year of having the rates done by a residual formula. In order to do that, we take the total budget for the department for the fiscal year, and then we take that and we allocate our expenses to the categories: the airfield, the terminal building, the boarding bridge, and commercial, industrial, and other. And we have made adjustments to that based on our experience operating in the new terminal. So we've shifted from the airfield. We're reducing the airfield costs from 35% to 30% and putting that under the terminal. So we're going up to 55% for the terminal expense. The boarding bridge is actual costs that we have, and then commercial, industrial is still about 10%. And the expenses that are in the budget are both the direct and indirect expense for the operation, maintenance, and capital improvements. It also includes debt service less any the amount that we get from the passenger facility charge. As you know, that's 49% of the debt service is paid with PFCs. And then an annual deposit to the city's mandatory reserve funds, those that we have to maintain. And as our budget adjusts, those funds also adjust by a percentage amount. So for the terminal building rate, the cost allocated from the total budget is $9 million. And then we offset that cost with other revenue sources that are generated in the terminal. Rental car revenue at $1.8 million is, and concession revenue that we anticipate at $255,000. So then you get to the net building requirement needed of $6.9 million and divide it by the total square feet of the building. As you can see, that would issue a rate of $103 a foot. So we negotiated, and we're going to impose an increase from what we had, but it's going to be $87 per square foot annually. That would generate $2,100,000 a year for the airport, based on the square footage currently leased by the airlines. The boarding bridge is really much simpler because we take the actual cost of maintaining the boarding bridges coupled with the debt service requirement for a total of $248,000 that we need. Divide that by the number of turns, and a turn is when the aircraft uses the boarding bridge, 4,400 turns for a year. And so we come up with a cost of $56 per turn, and that would generate the $248,000. The airlines are very insistent on the boarding bridge that those who use it pay for it, and if you're not using it, that you're not charged for it. They specifically asked that the costs for these to be taken out of the terminal rental and set up as a separate cost center. Then the landing fees, you take the whole budget, including debt service, and then you offset with all other revenue sources, commercial industrial revenue, the GA revenue that we project, even the terminal revenue that we're anticipating in boarding bridges. The net of $1.5 million, and that dollar amount to get to the landing fee, we look out into the future, project how many landings the airlines are going to have during the year, and we calculate the weight of the aircraft, and we do it by 1,000-pound units. So we're projecting 444,000 pounds of landed weight. So if you divide that 444,000 into the 1.5, you come out with a calculated rate of $3.52. We are going with $3.46. That was the negotiated rate, which is still up from the current one. So we would receive $1.5 million in landing fees based on the schedules that we know today. If they add flights, we make more money. So we met with the airlines on May 8th and distributed the analysis and the spreadsheets, had a discussion, and they agreed with the rates that we're proposing. They still question the city's mandatory reserve funds. That seems to kind of be an issue with them, but they understand why we have it and that it's not really an option to discuss. So we will be providing a little bit of additional information to the airlines, and then preparing the agreements for Airport Commission's approval. And then it will have to go to City Council for adoption. The agreement would be effective July 1st of this year. This chart shows you the difference in the rates going from $85 a square foot to $87.65. It's going down to $56, and $3.40 to $3.46. We're often asked, how does Santa Barbara's rates compare to other airports? And we really, because every airport is different, while it's the same, they're still different. The cost per in-plane passenger is the methodology that's used, and it's the cost, the total airport cost to the airlines divided by the number of passengers. So if they increase passengers or decrease, that rate changes. Our bond rate, when we went and issued bonds, we thought that the cost per in-plane passenger would be about $8.95. Of course, that was based on the traffic that we had in 2008. Our last year it was $9.75, and we're projecting with the new budget $10.18 per in-plane passenger. So we're asking Commission to recommend the changes in the rates at $87 per square foot. That's about a 1.8% increase in the rate that is current. $56 per turn is a 16% decrease from last year on the boarding bridge, and landing fees going up 6 cents is about a 3% increase. Questions?
Ms. Johns, did you have a comparative of cost per in-plane passenger to other airfields that ours?
I have a chart. It hasn't been updated recently, but I can certainly do that and bring it to Airport Commission just as an illustration.
I don't believe it's necessary. I was just trying to figure if we were in, and I'm sure we are. I have every confidence that we are in comparative or less than most.
I believe that we're very competitive. The airlines have yet to express any real concern about the rates and charges.
No kicking and screaming at it. Okay. I sense that, but I think it's important for everyone to know that when we're looking at these things, where we come in versus the others.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, it is true that each airport's different. Each terminal costs are different, each landing, short field, long field. So in a sense, it's kind of hard to really say, how do we compare, I think. Is that true? I mean, we can say our landing fees are $5 more than this one and $6 less than that one, but it's still what's on the field.
Right. I
that
think
costs.
and the way that the airlines, and you're absolutely right, and I think that's why the airlines use the cost to them at each airport per implaned passenger, and that's how they sort of compare. For instance, with Sacramento or San Jose's new terminals, that will push their cost per implaned passenger pretty high. And even though we did a new project, I think we were able to maintain it at a reasonably low rate. But you're right. I mean, the costs that go into that vary all over the board.
Yeah. Thank you.
So is it your intention to bring those rates closer to the calculated rate in going in future years, or is that each year it'll be assessed, recalculated?
Each year it will be recalculated, but what we also put in the agreement, the operating permit with the airlines at their request actually, was a mid-year adjustment to take a look at the budget, how we're doing revenue-wise and expenditure-wise after December, when we had 6 months experience. And if rates need to be adjusted, then we can do that. If we lose service, if they walk away from space or whatever might happen, then we have that opportunity after the end of the calendar year and do that in January. So what we don't receive will carry forward.
Okay. The turns on the bridges, if you set that benchmark at like 4,400, how did that compare to this prior year? Is that based on this number or forecasted?
Last year we forecast 4,000, and this year we probably have 42, 43. We're projecting for the end of the year around 4,300 uses. So that's good, turns. So we are creeping up a little bit, and we've added some just because we know, as I said, the Portland service will assist with that, adding, because that jet does use the boarding bridge.
Well, and originally Alaska wasn't going to use the boarding bridge, and they are now, so that helps.
Much.
Okay. Well, great.
The motion, we approve the airline rates and changes and forward them to the city council.
I second.
All in favor of approving and forwarding the rates as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The rates are approved. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I think that takes us to the director's report.
Okay. Our passenger count for April was down 0.3%, but for the year to date, up 0.6%. Looking at the fiscal year, it's much better. It's we're up about 2% for the fiscal year. Air service, June 9th, the nonstop to Portland comes back, and right now they're scheduled to continue through September, and there's possibilities for longer if they're doing well. So everybody fly to Portland.
And Portland, fly to Santa Barbara.
Right, yeah, exactly. Let's see, we are in production for a new commercial promoting our airport and airport airline services. I think you'll really enjoy it. They've been doing filming the last couple of days over at the terminal, so it's a very cute concept, and I think it gets the kind of message across. So you have that to look forward to. Our master plan, as you know, we took a little extra time to look at the alternatives and get comments. And so the next meeting of the advisory committee will be on June 26th, or at least tentatively, if we can get the majority of members together. And we're not having a public meeting that night, right? Or is this?
June 26th.
It will be a public meeting that night. Okay,
meeting,
that'll be
yes.
our hopefully final one on the alternatives. Let's see. Public art program, council approved the agreement with the Pierre Clysons Foundation. So they'll be coming back with their final design to Airport Commission either in June or July, whenever they're ready, and then proceed through the Visual Arts Committee, AVR, Planning Commission, and so forth. Let's see, I had one other. Oh, the semi-annual recruitment for advisory boards. We have 2 applications in for Mr. Clark's seat, and the interviews start on May 21st, and then there's another on June 4th, June 18th, and then they have scheduled for June 25th to make the appointment. So theoretically, the appointee could begin at the July meeting.
I know we have one vacancy listed. Is that still true? I looked at our chart the other day. It's listed one vacancy.
That's Commissioner Clark's
Yeah.
seat. So that's the 2 people who have applications in, and they will be interviewed. And I think we have good applicants. So
He's on
it'll be good.
holdover.
Huh?
He's on holdover.
On holdover, right. And that's all I was going to comment on. If you have other, there weren't that many items on the director's report, but if you have any other, huh?
Wings of Freedom.
Oh, the B-17 is another aircrafter here visiting through Saturday.
They left today, too.
Oh, they did?
leave today.
I thought it was longer.
I did.
I just found out a little bit later.
Oh,
Oh, they were here.
they
But
were
their
here.
memory lives on.
Yes.
They'll be back.
And your PowerPoint presentation, somewhat reminiscent of a polar bear in a blizzard, but quite impressive.
Oh, glad you appreciate it.
Well, you're certainly busy with your taxiway work out there.
Yes. I
Impacting.
think all the equipment and their little flags look like an army of tanks.
All right. Any questions regarding the director's report? No. I believe then, with that, we've run out of topics, so we are adjourned.